One question I always get asked as a recruiter from candidates and even my own circle of friends is leaving after a short stint at a company. Do we really care? Okay. In this episode, I want to talk about that a little bit and talk about my own story, which will hopefully give you guys a little bit more confidence and comfort with this whole topic. So, to start off, what am I actually talking about? So, when you are going in for a job interview, a lot of the time candidates they'll be at a company for maybe 2 to 3 months and they're just like, no, this is not the environment for me. Okay. However, the amount of candidates from this point that start looking for new jobs right there and then is very minimal. Okay. Reason being is a lot of candidates overthink this part. They think that if they apply for a new job elsewhere already, they're going to be seen as a liability, they're going to be seen as unprofessional, there's going to be problems. Okay. And this goes into my first point here. Take the time to actually explain your point and your experience, okay? I'll give you guys some comforting insight here. Recruiters are a lot more personable and a lot more understanding than you may think, okay? At the end of the day, recruiters understand, and I understand as well, every single person is different, okay? Every single person is different. Everybody makes mistakes, okay? Yes, the more times you make the mistake, the harder it is to understand, the more cautious people are going to be around you. But if you make one mistake, let's say you've joined a company thinking you're going to be doing A, B, and C, you feel really good. Everything that was said to you was in contract, in writing, talked to you about all the way through. Okay, so there was no need for you to feel skeptical about anything. Then you get in the company, the culture is not what they promised, and what you're doing on a day-to-day basis was not promised either. Okay, that's not your fault. Everything in the build-up, if you ask the correct questions, if you were told one set of information, and you were promised a particular dream, and you've bought into that, and then you get there, and it wasn't what it was meant to be, that is not your fault. Okay, so the first thing that you need to be doing is when you are going in for your screening calls and your interviews, firstly, be prepared. Be prepared that this is what they're going to talk about. As a recruiter, a big thing that I'm always doing is talking about your resume. Okay, I want you guys to be comfortable to talk about your resume. Every point on there, every skill on there, whatever it is, we can ask about anything. Okay, and I promise you, the first thing a recruiter is going to ask is why you're looking to leave so early on. Okay, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. They're just trying to eliminate risk. Okay, as I always say, hiring managers and recruiters, our biggest problem is we want to hire on predictability and risk awareness. Okay, we don't want to hire the risky candidate. Okay, so if you're leaving after 2 or 3 months and you can't effectively tell me why you're leaving, if it sounds very wishy-washy, and honestly, it low-key sounds like you're the problem, you're not going to be progressing. Okay, but if you can confidently tell me why you're leaving so early and where the alignment isn't and what you are looking for and how this current job can show that if it is genuine, perfect. Absolutely perfect. Okay, so you need to be comfortable in talking about this point as soon as possible and effectively as possible. Goes into my own story. Okay, so as I've talked about a few times here, guys, I spent 6 months working as a recruitment associate, recruitment admin at my first company. I quickly realized, guys, that it wasn't the environment for me. Okay, I don't ever want to go into too much detail about my experience there, but long story short, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Okay, I didn't feel like the training I was given was appropriate. I didn't feel like I was supported enough. I was still very new to the whole job itself, so I didn't feel like I was given proper training, proper education. I didn't feel like it was the place for me to grow. And ultimately, I knew I loved recruitment, but I knew from where I was right now, I was probably taking on too much responsibility for my experience, not given the appropriate training, and not being rewarded for it either. Okay, so these were all things that internally I was thinking about, and I thought, yeah, look, maybe this isn't the company for me. Okay, that was after 5 months, all right, and I started looking for new jobs. Okay, I spoke to a couple of companies, but the company that ended up hiring me and ended up taking me elsewhere, they asked, why are you looking to move on so quickly? I was worried about it, you know what I mean? I was like, look, it's only 5 months in. I hadn't even hit my probation yet, and I was already looking to leave, okay? So obviously on the surface, it doesn't look good, okay? But once I explained what I was looking for in a company and how passionate I was about the type of work I'm doing, they understood there was a lot of alignment there. They understood that, I can go in and do a job and I'm passionate about it, Okay. Another thing that I thought was really interesting about this company, and it may help you as well, is that when they're doing reference checks, they didn't ask for a reference at my current company. Okay. Before that, I had spent 4 years working casually at a swim school. Okay. And they reached out to people from there. And my managers, they gave great reviews. And so the company that I was going for, they were able to draw a better perception about me. They saw the bigger picture. They didn't look at me as Jonathan, who was at one company for 5 months and wanted to leave. They spoke to people who knew me before that and saw that, I was there for 4 years at my last company. And I went from being an instructor to a coach to being a manager. You know what I mean? They saw that, when I'm passionate about a field of work, I will happily stay there and work with the company and grow with the company, and they knew. They said that to me. They said, look, sometimes people make mistakes about where they go. That's perfectly fine. We can see after talking with the people at your last job what your character's like, who you are, and we're really excited to work with you. You know what I mean? So that should give you some comfort, okay, that if you have done the right things previously as well, say you're at a company for a long time, or you're leaving a good impression on where you are, that's going to come back and help you, okay? That good karma, that good energy, that's going to return, okay? So don't feel too stressed about that idea of, oh, I'm only here for a couple of months, no one's going to take me on. I promise you, that perception is changing so much more nowadays, okay? Maybe in like our parents' generation, maybe even our grandparents' generation, that more old school mentality of like, just suck it up, just go to work, blah, blah, blah. I understand that mindset as well. But genuinely, after being in a position where, you're working in a company with one or two other people, you're seeing those same people for 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, it can get draining and conflict can arise. And you don't want to feel that when you go to work. Okay. So taking that leap and just going for new companies and just trying something new, there is no harm in that. Absolutely no harm in that. I think as well what's really important, guys, is that when you are in these situations now, you're going to have a lot more confidence to talk about, what you truly value in a company. So I knew that I valued support, I valued education, I valued a good team environment. All of these three things are a lot more specific than just, oh yeah, I'm open to anything. You know what I mean? And that's something that someone's going to say when they haven't spent 2-3 months at another company before that. Now that you have those experiences, you're able to tailor your responses and be a lot clearer about what you want. So you see how it's even a benefit, if anything. Okay? Your actionable step here, there's two. One, stop caring, stop overthinking. Okay? I promise you, it is okay. There is no harm in looking for new jobs after a couple of months. If you are able to effectively explain yourself, and that leads me to my second step, okay? You need to be able to genuinely draw out, the reasons why you are leaving and how this next company can potentially help you based on what you are after, okay? So highlight what you want, highlight what's important, and be able to explain this effectively in 45 to 90 seconds, okay? You don't want to make this point your whole personality, okay? You want it to be a quick thing. Talk about it, address the point, move on, okay? The sooner you can do this, the better, all right? And the more effective of a communicator you will come across, which is another great skill set to obtain, okay? Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you are interested in working with me on a one-to-one level, feel free to click the link below for a free consultation. Happy to organize a 30-minute chat or more or less, whatever works for you. Take care, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you.